Hello, students. Week 12. We have been through a lot of different genres of literature. I'm in a different setting. I know if for people who take this not um, in December, you may think, what? What is going on? Where is her location? But you see, some of my December holiday decorations for my family are starting to pop up. I know every family celebrates different holidays during the season, but for me, some of my family holiday decorations are starting to go back. So I'm recording this in December. Some of you may see it not in December. Some of you may see this if you take this class in uh, in the summer, but it's very cold. It's been rainy, and so I decided to record in a different spot today. I may have to pause for a minute or something. I'm surrounded by pets who don't always cooperate when I'm trying to record. But all that to be said, I hope that you've had a good week. Whatever is going on when you're watching this video, whether it's winter or summer, whether it's a holiday your family celebrates, or whether it's just a regular week for you, I hope it's been wonderful. Please stay connected through the classroom. I really enjoy hearing from students. I know some people don't have a lot of time. That's okay if you're somebody who's just taking this just to watch the videos. I get it. My kids did some things like that where they just watch the videos. But, if you're interested in literature, want to delve deeper in any of this, ask me questions. I'll be happy to look up sources, things like that. Let's see. Here we go. What are we going to talk about today? Fan fiction. Until maybe 6 years ago, I didn't teach fan fiction. Even when I had classes in my house pre COVID and I would have homeschool students come in, we would do literature. It wasn't until a couple of years ago that I really started doing fan fiction. So I'm attempting to get my dogs to um, not bark in the middle of this. There, we're going to see if they will. You know, I I'm a lifelong learner, so I learned something from my students. I just never had read a lot of fan fiction, especially good fan fiction, and I wasn't sure how to teach it. I wasn't sure whether to consider it a literary genre or not. And I know y'all are like, what is she looking at when she's recording? My dogs are trying to get in trouble here. And I just really want to record in a different session today. Okay, fan fiction. You get these videos very real life. Somebody's like, I heard one teacher say one time, they were like, I perfect my videos. I cut out everything that students don't need to hear. Now, this is real life. I am a writer. I write about real life. A lot of what I write is fiction, but I take things from life and turn it into fiction. And so I'm not one who likes to edit out videos or anything. This is life. This is the life of a writer. I podcast, I write, I edit, I'm a poet, just magazine writer. I've written, I don't even know, I've lost count of how many magazine articles I've written and been published. But I don't like to edit out. Just see me as it is, real life, running around with dogs around me, inspired by whatever happens. But fan fiction, back to the point. I had to learn about fan fiction a few years ago. I mean, I knew what it was, of course. I knew fan fiction existed. I knew there was websites you could go. But the only ones that I had read were just a couple, and they were by people who just didn't put much effort into it. They didn't correct grammar at all. There was a thousand mistakes. They even had some characters. It would be names. It would be spelled one way in one place and one way in another. It was very hard to read. And therefore, I just wrote off fan fiction and didn't even delve into it. And then some of my students, especially some of my juniors and seniors that wrote fan fiction and love to read fan fiction, challenged me. And they said, you need to check into it. We want to study some fan fiction as literature. I was like, oh, I don't know, I'll see. But I did. I went to some of the sites. I used their recommendations, and there was really some really well written pieces of work. There's a fiction, some long stories, not just short stories. I mean, there were some novel length works out there that have been put up chapter by chapter. And I was really impressed. And I thought, this is. And so then I started researching it and going back and looking at the history of fan fiction. There's really a lot of good stuff there. So I know I'm kind of rambling, but um, I just give you a little backstory there. But this genre of literature lets readers join in on the storyline of their favorite books, shows, video games, any other media. Writers can also continue to build upon the settings. It's a form of creative writing that has become really widely accepted by readers and literary critics. Is it legal? See, this was my biggest problem with it before is I really didn't understand the legalities. I think that's why I was hesitant to teach it because I thought these people are cheating. They're taking somebody's work. But again, it was because I was uninformed. It is legal to write fan fiction, but certain rules apply. The work has to be transformative, meaning that I have to edit my own words, meaning the writer must write new material without just restating the original story. New content has to be added. So the fan fiction also must be non commercial, meaning the writer is not making money off of it directly. If it's pure fan fiction, if you're using the characters' names or the exact setting, the original authors can sue fan fiction writers if they choose to exercise their rights and consider copyright laws broken. So, if you don't follow the rules, fan fiction can be illegal, but the majority of the work that's out there that's listed as fan fiction is totally legal because you're transforming. You're just taking the characters or the setting and you're transforming those into a storyline that's completely original to the new author. And that's totally legal as long as you're not selling it, publishing it as a book and selling it. Like I can't take Hogwarts and Harry and Ron and Hermione and write a story based on those and then sell it as my own. But I can post it on fan fiction sites. As long as it's non commercial, it's considered legal. So, fan fiction actually has been around for centuries. The internet just makes it more accessible now. It's easier to find fan fiction, it's easier to study fan fiction as a literary genre. In the past, it was kind of closed groups that were doing it. For sci fi fans, have been holding conventions. That's my dog. Gonna do something. I have no idea what he's doing. Sci-fi fans have been holding conventions and writing stories based on Star Trek and other fan favorites for generations. Sherlock Holmes fans created clubs and shared stories. Lots of Sherlock Holmes fans still do this today. You know, you got the Sherlock series now that's really well written. Now there's entire fandoms based on Minecraft, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Doctor Who. The list is entirely too long to name here. If they're fans, someone probably wrote fan fiction. So it's really fascinating to go through and see. I mean, even based on video games, it's really interesting to go back and trying to stay current as a teacher with fan fiction. It's very challenging because it's constantly being produced. Okay, this is where you can pause this for a minute. In these videos, what I hope that you have done is pause these, write down some of these names and research them on your own. Look them up on your own. To be a true student of literature, you can't just listen to me lecture you about this. You need to read snippets of all of these people. Now, all of these people have also published original works that are not fan fiction, but these are also authors who are publishing quite a bit of fan fiction also. So write down some of these names, look them up. Instead of me just telling you the life story of each one of these and giving you a list of all of their titles, I want you to do a little bit of research. Be the student here. I don't expect you to read a novel from every single one of these, but get snippets of it. Familiarize yourself with who they are, what their backstory is. Read their biographies. They either have websites or you can find their information. So take some of these names down and look it up. Get a taste of some of their fan fiction and some of their work that's not fan fiction. I mean, really look up some of their other things too. Give you some modern writing. All of these, of course, are not necessarily American. This is a global list, I believe. But it's really interesting to see the different directions that fan fiction go. So look up some quotes, look up some stories, read just a little bit from each of these. It's not that I think you're going to like everything on the list. It's just that sometimes being a lifelong learner, it's good to just expose ourselves to new things, different thoughts, different characters. Read as much as you're interested in reading and then stop when it's not interesting to you, but you've learned something. You've picked up a different perspective. So read some of this a little bit. Here's who I'm going to focus on. Neil Gaiman, amazing person, born in Hampshire, United Kingdom, and now lives in the United States near Minneapolis. As a child, he discovered he absolutely loved books, reading stories. He read C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien. Um, you see the list of just different authors. This is from his website. So, this is his list of authors that he enjoys listening to, including Edgar Allan Poe. We talked about Edgar Allan Poe in this class. I don't think we talked about Ursula Le Guin or some of these others. But a self described, quote, feral child who was raised in libraries, Gaiman credits librarians with fostering a lifelong love of reading. I wouldn't be who I am without libraries. I was the sort of kid who devoured books, and my happiest times as a boy was when I persuaded my parents to drop me off in the local library on their way to work, and I spent the day there. I discovered that librarians actually want to help you. They taught me about interlibrary loans. If you haven't ever done that, that means your librarian will have a book shipped from an entirely other library if they don't have it. And you can do an interlibrary loan, and of course, you have to then give the book back or pay for it. But it's fascinating. That means you're not stuck just reading only the books in your library. You can read books from around the world. Can you tell I like to read? On top of liking to be a lifelong learner, on top of writing and teaching, I love to read. And so that's why I will just pick up books by people. I don't That's not to say I like every book I read, but I like to be exposed to different thoughts. Gaiman began his writing career in England as a journalist. His first book was a Duran Duran biography that took him 3 months to write. And his second biography was Douglas Adams' Don't Panic, the official Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Companion. Gaiman describes his early writing and says, I was very, very good at taking a voice that already existed and parroting it. Violent Cases was the first of many collaborations with artist Dave McKean. This early graphic novel led to their series Black Orchid, published by DC Comics. Gaiman is listed in the Dictionary of Literary Biography as one of the top 10 living postmodern writers and is a prolific creator of works of prose, poetry, film, journalism, comics, song lyrics, and drama. Neil Gaiman writes books for readers of all ages, including collections and picture books for little bitty readers. Gaiman also writes for adults and is the New York Times bestselling author of the novels Neverwhere, Stardust, the Hugo and Nebula award winning American Gods. You can look at the list here. Just look up Neil Gaiman. I had to shorten this list by quite a lot. I couldn't get the list of everything Neil Gaiman has done in this, but I wanted to just, here's why I like to, I'll tell you a little bit more and then I'll go with that thought. Neil Gaiman's work has been honored with many awards internationally, including the Newbery and Carnegie medals. His books and stories have been honored with Hugo's, Nebulas, the World Fantasy Award, Bram Stoker Awards, Locus Awards. The list just goes on and on. Uh, Film and television. Gaiman wrote the screenplay for the original BBC TV series Neverwhere, Dave McKean's first feature film Mirror Mask, for the Jim Henson Company. Jim Henson, Muppets, on top of other things, not just Muppets, but I thought I'd make that connection for you. You can see if you're looking at the screen, there's just a long list. If you're just listening to this, stop every, pull it back up when you're at a point where you can look at some of this long list. Even in Gaiman's 2011 episode of Doctor Who, The Doctor's Wife, caused the Times to describe him as a hero. And here's a picture of another picture of Gaiman. What kind of story would you like me to tell you? He's written everything, including fan fiction. He's an author of short fiction, fan fiction, novels, comic books, graphic novels, nonfiction, audio theater, and films. So, what I would like for you to think about this, what I like to teach Neil Gaiman is because Neil Gaiman doesn't let anybody define him. He doesn't let anybody say, you shouldn't write this many different types of things. Yes, you can. If you're passionate about all of these, you don't have to. If you like to write sci-fi only, that's fine. Or if you like to read sci-fi only, or horror only, or realistic fiction, or historical fiction, or whatever, nothing wrong with that. But there's also not anything wrong with exploring lots of different genres. And I think that's how I would like to end this thought about modern literature. And we started at the beginning where we talked about the different romanticism and transcendentalism and things like that. We went through Gothic literature. We talked about different types of literature where an author would be defined by a certain time period. Modern literature isn't like that. There's people who write historical fiction. There's still people who write romanticism. There's still people who write Gothic literature. There's still people who are just like Gaiman, who just write all over the place, all different types of things. Graphic novels are huge now. Nonfiction, biographies, memoirs, writing for film, writing for television. So, as a reader or as a writer, whichever one you are, you know, don't don't limit yourself. Expose yourself to different ideas, to different genres, to different things that you might really like. Go through these lists, whether they're modern writers or some of the older ones, and read snippets and see if you find a book that you really like that you have never read before. If nothing else, read a summary of some of the books just so you have an idea of what all is out there. So that's your modern American literature thought of the day to leave the literature class. Uh, Comment for me if you have a favorite author that I haven't talked about in class. Tell me who it is. That's how I got started teaching fan fiction. Somebody introduced me to some people that I've, it's impossible for me to keep up with everything in the literary world, whether older or newer. So I like for students to comment. If I miss somebody in class that you think should be possibly covered one day, let me know. Okay, MLA, papers. Now, this is what I'm going to talk about in the grammar section of the video today. There are different handbooks, MLA, APA, Chicago style, that teachers will tell you to use when writing a paper. It's not so much what's in the paper, but how the typed paper looks. Everything you write nowadays should be typed. I mean, if there's some extreme reason why you can't get it typed, that's okay, but mostly they should be typed papers. And the style dictates what the typed paper looks like. For example, some want a cover page, some want the title at the top, some want your last name and the page number at the top on every single page. So if they drop it when they're grading it, if they're not reading it online, if they've actually printed it, they can put it back in order. They know whose paper goes with whose. Uh, how do you cite the material? So it's impossible for me to just tell you all of this. I'm going to attach that some handouts just in case. I think I did it earlier, but I'm going to reattach them in case you need them. That'll show you some of this. But the two biggest styles that you will use, if you are psychology majors, you use APA. But mostly in college and high school almost always says MLA. College will switch between MLA and Chicago style of what the typed paper looks like. The paper that you're writing for me should be MLA. What this means is that you are going to, I know I'm editing while I go. It's probably really annoying. You are going to have in text citations. Anytime that you cite material that is not common knowledge. For example, if I, say that Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States and was assassinated, That's common knowledge. I don't have to tell you where I got that. Even if you're looking at it in a book, you say, well, not everybody knows that. No, but your average student, stuff that your average person who is studying that topic could easily find. Kind of like stuff that would just be in a kid's encyclopedia article about the topic that you're doing. Anything else, anything has to be, you have to tell where you found that information. If I say something specific, like the seat number he was sitting in the theater, or how many rows back he was, or, exactly what somebody in the theater said, I have to tell where I found that information. You use in text citations, which means your works cited list is going to have a list of your sources that you used in your paper. So that's what this would look like. So in this paper that I'm pretend writing here, Sherry Applington wrote a book called Modern Poetry and Its Meaning, and I have that on my works cited page. The first thing that's here is what goes in parentheses. If there's a page number, it goes. And notice MLA, there's no comma in between, and the period goes after the citation, after the parentheses. So I've got Applington 263. People are like, what is Applington? They're reading my paper. They go to the last page, the works cited page, and they can find it in alphabetical order. And you say, what if I'm using a website and it doesn't tell me the author? A lot of places there's websites and they just have the title. Well, then I would just have modern meaning and modern poetry and its meaning. If that was a web page, and I would then have, if there was a company or somebody who published it, I would put that there. And then I would actually put the entire link to the article, and then I would put date accessed, a colon, and put December 4th, 2022. But then modern poetry would be the first words there if it didn't have an author. So that's what I would put there. Whatever's the first word here is what you put here. If you have two Smiths, then you have to put the whole thing. You would put Sherry Applington 263, or Sherry Smith and then John Smith. I know it can be confusing. But this is an example of how it's different in Chicago style. My paper is MLA, but I just want to show you an example of when you type it, you still do in-text citations, but they put the year and then they put a comma. So little bitty things will get points off if you don't pay attention to how your paper is typed. So I'm going to send you some references. This is what Chicago end notes look like. Chicago MLA doesn't do end notes, what we used to call footnotes at the bottom of the page. Chicago will also do end notes sometimes. MLA does not. I'm going to put MLA up here so I remember if you're looking at this. On this, right here, let's go back. You said, how did you know how to type this? Applington, comma, Sherry, period, modern poetry and its meaning, period. MLA has a very specific formula. Author, period, title of source, period, title of container. So title of source means article. Title of container means where was that article? Is it in a book? Is it in a journal? Other contributors, version, number. If you're using a journal, sometimes it's journal number 6. Publisher, publication date, location, period. Last thing, if there's if it's a website, you put the entire link there. Now you say all of this, yours wasn't that long that you showed us as an example. Well, I didn't have a version, I didn't have a number, I didn't have other contributors. You only put what you have. If you're looking at it, there's not this information, don't worry about it. You don't have it, just skip it. Go to the next thing that you have. If it's a website, sometimes all you have is the title of the article that you'll put in quotation marks, the name of the site, if it has a name, and the website link and date access. Sometimes that's all you have. Sometimes on website articles, you don't even have a date published. So you do the best that you can with what you have. I'm going to put these links in there, but let me show you um, a great resource. Let me open this. I'm going to stop share for a minute. Let me open this hyperlink here. Purdue Owl. Okay. Totally legal for you to use. You do not have to be a Purdue University student to use this. I'm just going to give you a glimpse of it. Um, Let me share my screen again here just a little bit. I'm going to put this link in there in the classroom, okay? But here's an example of looking this up on a writing guide, looking this up and looking to see how things are formatted. Purdue has an online writing lab. It's called Purdue Owl. Anybody can access this. You can see here that anything that you want to see, you can do it. Let's see. Here's an MLA sample paper, for example, that you can look at. Now remember, some of these are college level. Yours for me is only a 5-page paper, but they show you exactly how to type your name at the top. They show you how to do in-text citations. You come all the way down, and the last page is the Works Cited page. And I've got to click this got it so you can see a little bit. They show you exactly how to cite a website, how to cite a song, how to cite whatever it is you want to cite, a book, a periodical. You see this list over to the side on the left-hand margin, how to cite books. They give you all kind of samples here on Purdue Owl. So last name, comma, first name, title of book, city of publication, and then they give you examples. They how to do they how to do websites, how to do. So use these online. Don't try to memorize this, okay? It'll drive you crazy. Just don't even try. Use the writing guides. Use the sample that I'm going to put in the classroom to do your in-text citations. That means anything, any information that's not common knowledge, you have to tell us where it is, or it's plagiarism. If you put information in your paper and you don't tell me where you got it from, you're plagiarizing. You'll get an F on your paper. Teachers will know. A lot of people are like, teachers won't know. Yes, we will, because it won't sound like you're writing. And we know that that information is not common knowledge. And we will search for it in Google and find where you got it from. So be honest, just do a great job. Learn how to do this. I will walk you through it if you send in your sources. I will help you build this. Okay, but I can't help you if you don't send it in. But that's what your works cited is, your last page of your paper, and it's a separate page, and all of the works that you used for your paper are in alphabetical order by the first thing that's listed. If there's an author's last name, that's it. If not, the title of the article. It's the first thing that's listed. But there's lots of examples online. Okay, I'm going to put some of those links in there. Please let me know if you have any questions. I know this is the last week. Send me whatever you have for any of your papers. I would love to give you feedback. Okay. Don't be embarrassed if you're not done. That's okay. It's a learning process. Maybe you got a lot of other stuff going on. That's okay. I'm not here to judge you and decide what you did and what you didn't have time to do and what you should have done or anything else. I'm here to teach you and help you do your best. So if you send me stuff, I will give you feedback and just say, I didn't get done, but give me feedback on whatever you have. And I'd be happy to give you feedback. If you finish it next week or the next, within say 2 weeks, you can still send it to me. I'll still grade it. Okay. I love teaching. I hope this has been an interesting class for you. Send me feedback. If there's an author that I should have covered, or something in grammar that you wished I had covered. Number one, I will try to answer it for you and find the answer. And number two, I'm a lifelong learner, so I will always want to add new people that I may not have read. I hope you stay a lifelong learner. Delve into some of these, really research some of these writers that I mentioned. Like I said, even if you only read just a summary of their work, just expose yourself to somebody new. I've enjoyed having you in the class. And please, again, just stay in touch in the classroom.